All right, complementary color mixing demo. Here we go. Now so what you're basically doing is you're painting two different complementary scales. One goes from orange to blue and one from yellow to violet. All you're doing, it's so straightforward, but to get a good gradient, as you know from this one, it's pretty hard. So you want to start with the orange and then literally just add little bits of blue and go all the way across. This is going to be the ultramarine blue, this guy, out of the tube. Now, you don't have an orange out of the tube. You had to mix it yourself, all right? So everybody's starting orange will probably be a little bit different. And that's okay. I don't care if it's like, exactly the same as the orange on your warm color scale. Any orange will do. And this is why I recommend using the palette knife for this. This is kind of cool because I can do this at an angle. But you want to add a little red and a little orange and just have a pile like this. Okay, little red, there we go, a little bit of yellow. You probably need more red, more yellow than red, because as I recall, the red's pretty nasty. So I'm just going to scrape, see, can you guys, I'm scraping off just a little bit, like this with the palette knife. And then I'm mixing in with the yellow, like that. How am I mixing it? Am I stirring it? No. Am I chopping it? No. Basically, when you're using a palette knife to mix your colors, think of aggressively buttering toast. It's like, pretend this is a knife and like you're just like buttering toast, or cake icing, something like that, right? Now that's a little too red for me. I want more yellow in that. See, it's kind of like that one. Yeah, I want it to be a little yellower. And you need some fair amount of yellow. So, I'm adding a little more yellow. And I'm kind of pushing it over here so it doesn't stay too... That's nice. That's a good orange. Use it all. Now, this should be enough. And the great thing about doing this is, and again, if you can't see, behind me, okay, and that should be enough, okay? And the great thing is it won't dry up. It just stays there. So you don't have to worry about it drying up. Take your time, okay? Orange. And then you need blue. And the blue is going to be out of the tube. So now at this point, that's really all you need. And then you put your, I always put my, boom, like that. Put your palette knife in the Gamsol. I put these guys back on because I probably don't need to mix any more of this, right? It's probably going to be enough, okay? So I'm just going to cover these guys up. Maybe I'll want some more later, but now you have a consistent orange to mix with your blue. So now I'm going to take the blue and just put a bunch of it down here. The blue's pretty strong, so that probably will be enough, at least for now. You can always put out more later, all right? Now, what I discovered with this canvas board, and as I'm sure I've mentioned to you guys, a lot of what these scale assignments are beta testing. I normally do these with water-based media, and things behave a little differently with oil. And a lot of you guys, when I had you adding the liquid in just to help speed the drawing process, especially with the greens right through here, you guys had some real difficulty. And it's not your fault, it's just the paint and the liquid. But you had a lot of difficulty with these colors being transparent or streaky or that sort of thing. So for this assignment, don't do that. Like, just use the paint on its own. And the great thing is you really don't need to clean the brush that much because you're just mixing different variances of the same two colors, right? You're just gonna, so I'm going to take, I've got my orange here, my blue here, and I'll make a little mixing area over here. So I take some of the paint, put it over here, and you want to start off with, here's my base orange. Here, let me zoom in. Here. Right? Now, for the first one, I really want to be careful about how much I add. Like, really careful. Like, what I'm doing is I'm just pulling off a little of the blue, mixing it in with the orange. You can see it turns kind of greenish. That's okay. That's basically how the colors mix. But that is way too dark already. So you really want to be very careful. So I mixed up some of that, barely any at all, right? And I'm just going to kind of like wipe off the extra and then put it in here, you know. And it doesn't matter. Oh, the paint's getting in the orange. So what? That's all you're doing. You're just mixing orange with blue. That's a little bit better. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Let's see how that looks. So I'm trying to zoom in here. That's not a bad start. And I'm sure you'll agree that like without the liquid, it's like easier to work with. And if it's still wet and you decide that it needs to be more orange, just add a little bit more orange and put it on, you know, mix it. This is when I talked about you want to mix the color first, then paint it. Once you get past that 1-2 step, now you can do anything you want. Like it's like, I'm going to mix, not down here, I'm just going to pick up some orange and add it to this and make it more orange and less blue. How does that look? I don't like it. You know, I'm like, I was better off with the first one. And I've said this before, and I will say it 1,000 times again. One of the great things about oil painting is you can always change it. You can always fix it. If you're not totally happy with it, you can let it dry and then paint over it. So there's one. That looks like a good start. Maybe I'm wrong, but for now it looks pretty good. Okay, that's way too yucky. Okay, that's getting way too dark, way too fast. How do I know that? Because I've done this before, and you haven't. How are you going to know that? You won't. Really, it's like you guys are. That's one of the point. You guys are new to this. You guys are new to it. You'll be like, you know, really what you want. And I'm going to show you. I mean, that's not bad. Okay. I know I said you're just going to keep adding blue, but just to speed the demo up so that you see where it's going. So now I do want to wipe the paint off. I do want to smash my brush and clip this off. And I'm going to start with the blue all the way on the other end. Okay. Which I still have blue. I don't need to put any more out. It's right here. So I'm going to put the blue all the way over here. God, I have to get so close. It's such a pain. Okay. Now I'll take the blue and try adding just a tiny bit of the orange to it. And you'll see when you get a little bit of orange mixed with the blue, it gets really dark. I mean, no, it's not black, but it isn't that blue anymore either, and it is a really dark color. So that's why I really don't think in this class you guys really need black. If you want to try experimenting with it at some point, you can. I won't say you can't, but at this point I would prefer that you guys try to do all your color mixing without black, because black out of the tube is a real color killer. Like it just deadens color really badly. And that's a pretty dark grayish kind of color anyway, right? I mean, that almost looks like a darker than charcoal gray kind of gray. Now I'm going to add a little bit more orange. And now I'm working backwards the same way. And like I said, you're like, yeah, it kind of looks a little greenish, Cole. It's like, yeah, that's okay. And that's the difference between a yellow and violet complement and an orange and blue complement. So that basically you're just working all the way across doing that. As I said before, you know, I'd like you to be kind of tidy. And even I, who have been doing this since there were dinosaurs, really, it's like I do this all the time, and even I'm not perfect, you know, but I just want all the edges touching. You know, I don't want any white in between them. You know, see, they're all touching, and it's smooth the gradation all the way across of orange to blue, and then the same thing with yellow to violet. Basically, it's the same technique. The thing about, only with orange, you had to mix the orange, and the blue came straight out of the tube. With the yellow, you start with the cadmium yellow. That's right out of the tube. But you have to mix your violet also. The way, like you mixed your violet over here, it's a mixture of, I'll put this up here. So, yeah, what? Oh, you guys are saying it for, thank you. Say it.
Magenta and ultramarine.
There you go. So mix up something like that. the way I mixed up the orange, pardon me, the yellow and the red to get that, and do the same thing. So you'll have a pile of violet, yellow out of the tube, and you do the same thing below. And that will give you a real great complementary range. And you'll see that when you get in the middle, you get this beautiful, fleshy brown. That's a great color. Let's see if I can get one right down the middle. It's a challenge. Lighter than that. Let's see what we do. That might be it. Something like that. But isn't that yummy? The I have gotten comments. When you're mixing browns, okay, people, and it's natural because it's true, but people will have comments about, so there you go. So that's basically how you do it. You see, so I first took yellow and the red, mixed them together to get my orange, blue out of the tube, and just add little bits at a time. Don't get too crazy with it. Just take your time, set it all up. You'll eventually have these across, and I'll be coming around and looking at what you guys are working on and say, nah, you're getting a little too blue too fast, or it's not getting brown quickly enough. And then you just go back in and change it. You know, you can fix it by adding, if I decide that it's not getting darker fast enough, not getting browner fast enough, I'll ask you to just go in and add a tiny bit more blue. And you can change these and mix them on the canvas, not just here. This is where you do the starting mixing. This is where you dial it in, okay? So people, this is my thought, is because everything's brown, and I'm talking about flesh tones, people frequently, when they're working with this, they don't like complementary colors, okay? It's like, I don't like these. And my question being, why? And when we said warm and cool,